Now, across the stock market in 2025, there are a lot of different income-oriented ETFs that offer exposure to the Nasdaq-100 index, which is somewhat volatile and offers a ton of option premium, which is why a lot of these ETFs have been able to offer so much in distribution rates, so much in dividends consistently. But to be fair, a main question a lot of especially newer investors have is which of these ETFs is right for you, and which of these ETFs is more or less the quote-unquote best ETF to invest into if, again, you're looking for Nasdaq-100 exposure through a high income-oriented strategy. So in this video, we're going to figure out exactly that. I'm going to share with you guys my personal few favorite high income focused ETFs that offer Nasdaq 100 exposure, some of the best ones across the entire market, and side note, I actually own every single one of these inside my portfolio right now as we speak. We're going to go through some of the pros and cons of all of them, and then later on towards the end of the video, we're going to stack them all next to each other and see which is the best Nasdaq 100 high income ETF after all. So if you're an income focused investor, sort of on the fence when it comes to all these different popular high yielding options, well then make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. My A to Z dividend investing ebook has helped countless dividend investors get started with their journey. And my custom dividend tracker that I'm constantly using here on the channel has also helped so many investors stay on track and allow them to see their dividend income in real time. Well, today I have another treat for you guys. I'm not only going to offer you my A to Z dividend investing ebook and the custom dividend tracker, but also just for a short limited time, I'm going to be adding in my brand new weekly dividend blueprint ebook to show you how you can get started with weekly dividend ETFs and add this into your investing strategy. This offer is not going to last long, so go ahead and click the first link down below in my description, and you're going to get both ebooks and the custom dividend tracker bundle. But like I said, please act fast because this won't be around for long. Now let's get back into the video. Now, first off, we have the JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF, JEPQ. This is one of the most popular Nasdaq 100 high income ETFs across the entire community when it comes to dividend income focused investors. Now, this is simply because this ETF offers Nasdaq 100 exposure, but then with the use of written out of the money Nasdaq 100 index call options, this ETF has not only offered somewhat of upside as far as the price goes over time, but also has offered a nice amount of income every single month for the most part. Now, I bought JEPQ a very long time ago. I think I have around $25,000 worth of it in my portfolio as of right now. And at least up until this day, JEPQ has never failed me. It's offered me somewhat stable Nasdaq 100 exposure in my portfolio, which has went up and down over time. But more than that, it's also offered me around 45 cents more or less per share per month for every single share that I have across my portfolios. Now, with that income over time, I've been able to reinvest it into more shares of JEPQ and or just use that money to buy whatever else I want in the markets. But this ETF offers a very simple yet effective strategy and has a good track record, at least as of so far, so a lot of investors are absolutely obsessed with it. Now, another one of my Nasdaq 100 high income ETF favorites is ticker symbol QQQi, an ETF that is quickly gaining more and more popularity, even more popular than JEPQ for some reasons, and that's because of the strategy. Now, this ETF also utilizes the Nasdaq and of course implements a call option strategy, but along with that, this ETF offers tax efficiency because of section 1256 contracts, but also along with that offers return of capital, which can definitely be helpful to some investors. Now, along with that, this ETF also sells and buys NDX index options at times, which means that if the Nasdaq 100 goes absolute bull market mode, this ETF could potentially see some more upside. Now, this ETF's objective specifically is almost perfect for what I'm looking for, and that's basically offering high monthly income in a tax efficient manner, but also with potential for equity appreciation, which honestly, as a dividend investor, that's what we're all more or less looking for. Now, all to say that this ETF has become one of my favorites, I'm actively adding more and more of it in my portfolio as the days go on as we speak. Did I mention that this ETF pays out a very consistent around 61 cent per share per month distribution to investors, which offers around a 14% yield compared to JEPQ's around 10%, 11% yield. Next, we of course have the OG, the Nasdaq 100 cover call ETF QYLD, one of the first ETFs I ever bought that was yielding say around 10, 11, 12%, which back in those days was nuts. Now, reasons to consider this one: it offers Nasdaq 100 exposure, then with covered call writing, it's been able to make 11 years of distributions and still running. Now, QYLD is not the prettiest ETF if you look in the max time frame. It's down significantly from where it was trading during inception, but the total return for this one has not been horrible whatsoever. Since 2013, it's been paying out around 10 to 12% yield per year, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the most recent distributions are anywhere from 18 cents, 16 cents, more or less per share per month. Now, I own a ton of QYLD in my portfolio, and it's not the best performer of all time, but this ETF single-handedly, because I do own a good amount of it, has offered a consistent amount of cash flow every single month to my portfolio, which has definitely helped me build out some other positions that I love and adore. All that to say that this is not my favorite anymore. I have not added another share of QYLD in quite some time. Now, an ETF that as of recently is one of my favorites, GPIQ, or the Goldman Sachs Nasdaq 100 Core Premium Income ETF. I like this ETF specifically because just like QQQi, I like the objective and I also see the strategy as something that's very close to what I'm trying to achieve. The objective is seeks current income while maintaining prospects for capital appreciation. Again, income plus upside, that's what we're looking for as dividend investors. It says seeks consistent monthly distributions, it offers exposure to the Nasdaq-100 index and then dynamically sells call options, allowing for some upside but also for some income potential. Now as far as yield goes with GPIQ, it's offering like a 10% more or less yield and consistent 42 cents per share per month distributions, which are not bad whatsoever. And because of this ETF strategy, if the Nasdaq-100 turns green, we are probably going to see a lot of growth from this one. Now, last but not least, QDTE is another ETF that Nasdaq-100 hungry ETFs are looking to get exposure from. This ETF utilizes a zero-day till expiration option strategy, which when the market was doing really well, it was doing amazing. It was actually outperforming a lot of the other ones we talked about. But just as of recently, this ETF is having some struggles as far as performance goes if we're not talking about distribution rate. But again, because this ETF offers such a large distribution, you really have to look at total return. Now, did I mention that QDTE actually pays out on a weekly frequency, which is partially mainly some of the reasons I grabbed some shares of this one. I was very fascinated by getting paid every single week, and these payouts are actually pretty massive. We're talking like 24, 26 cents per share per week, 23 cents, 24 cents as of recently. I mean, these are some big time payouts to get paid every single week. Now, the option strategy for this one is a little bit more complicated. The zero-day till expiration is a shorter duration option strategy, which can work very well depending on what happens in the markets. So now that we talked about JEPQ, QYLD, QQQi, GPIQ, and lastly QDTE, it's time to stack them up side to side and see how they've all performed over time. And what's crazy is that even though these ETFs more or less have somewhat of a similar strategy, they really at times don't trade exactly like each other, which is again a good reason to watch more videos like this one and do some of your own research and really figure out what you want exposure to. Now on the max time frame, which is not that long, we don't have all that much time frame to go off of because some of these ETFs are brand new, but basically more or less they've all done decent, around 8-9% total return. QYLD is the only one at around 6.5% total return over this time frame, so QYLD is lagging behind, but for the most part they've all offered a similar total return. So how in the world are you supposed to pick one to invest into? Well, of course, you could do what I do and just buy a little bit of all of them, maybe buy more or less of some of the ones you like more. But otherwise, you really have to look into each of these ETF strategies, try to figure out which of the objectives and strategies match exactly what you're looking for. That's going to be the most sure way to figure out which ETF is going to fit in your specific portfolio. Like for example, if you really want weekly income, well then QDTE is going to be the only one in this bunch to offer that. If you want tax efficiency and around a 14% yield, at least based off of historical numbers, QQQi is going to offer that. But for the most part, all these ETFs are at least somewhat interesting to me, and like I said, I personally own a little bit of all of them. Now before I go, I do have one last question for you guys down below. Out of all these different ETFs that offer Nasdaq-100-ish exposure, of course through a high income strategy, which is your personal favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.